Hi, my name is Devin Mancuso. I'm a director of product design from Australia, currently living in California in the States. By day, I work as a director of product design at Dropbox, and by night, I'm a co-creator of an NFT project out of Tokyo, Japan called Shinsei Galverse. My background is as a creative technologist, which means I'm often tinkering with both the technical side of things and also the design and creative application. My background is in software engineering, but as well as product design and user experience. So NFTs are a really interesting intersection of those two parts for me. I first started dabbling in NFTs a couple of years ago in late 2020, I think. I was in a DAO at the time, and everybody was chatting about social tokens and NFTs, so I decided to just dive right in. I think I minted Devin coin around that time, which was not such a great experiment, but taught me a lot about writing smart contracts and the ways that smart contracts and tokens were starting to integrate with social platforms like Discord at the time, which was really interesting to me. I met some other NFT artists from Japan, Emi Kusano and Ayako Ihira, in late 2021, and we started to brainstorm together about a potential project that we could work on, which later became Shinsei Galverse, which we learned earlier this year in 2022. I think NFTs as a technology are particularly interesting, and I think they have huge potential, but I also acknowledge I think we're really early on in the infancy of both developing this technology and really grasping what this technology can do for different sectors. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about NFTs in general in the entertainment and media and gaming space. And I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me when I think about the potential for NFTs is around the idea of interoperability. I think that as kids, when we would grow up watching our favorite cartoons or TV shows, we often dreamed that the characters could jump off the page or jump out of the TV. And it was really exciting to think about different characters from different worlds meeting each other and having new adventures. But the limitations at the time around IP and just the technologies, the way media was produced, meant that those kind of collaborations were rare and often the result of a lot of manual work or one-off creations. But I think we're in an interesting time where the general public is getting more familiar with this idea of a metaverse, or more familiar with movies and games that explore the idea of many worlds or many versions. We're seeing lots of TV shows come out this year with that kind of theme, lots of movies. And so now the idea of characters from one game jumping into characters of a different game and sharing adventures together starts to seem a lot more plausible and make a lot more sense for people. And I think this will tap into one of the superpowers of NFTs, is that these different IPs and these different characters and worlds exist on the blockchain and can be greatly interoperable with each other. You can totally imagine in the future kids playing their favorite games together, being whichever representation they like, whichever character they like. And that will create some really new powerful opportunities, I think, for gaming and entertainment. But today, we don't see that as much. And I wonder why that is. I think it's for a few reasons. Creating these collaborations between different NFT project teams is really hard. It requires a lot of work, and it requires often a lot of trust in the other team. Many NFT teams don't actually know each other in real life. So there's a lot of trust that needs to be built before you feel comfortable doing a deep collaboration with another company. But the technology is there, so I think as more teams get to know each other and as trust is built, we'll start to see more and more NFT communities colliding and collaborating, creating these kind of mashups where their NFTs start to interact each other. You can already start to see the beginnings of this, where one collection will launch a new NFT collection and they'll offer rare traits or modified NFTs if the user's wallet happens to hold an NFT of a particular community. Now, this is a pretty simple idea, but it forms the basis of this idea that holding onto one type of collection or NFT or IP could start to change or augment your experience with a different brand or IP or collection. And I think this kind of interoperability will be really powerful going forward into the future and might even drive the next wave of NFT market that we see. I get a lot less sleep. It's a tricky thing. They say Web3 never sleeps. It's a global industry. It's a global community. There's people from all over the world that are really passionate about this technology and about building these projects. And so that means that there's always someone awake in a time zone somewhere that's working on something. And so in that way, it has been a little challenging to keep up, in the personal life. Every day it feels like there are new updates or new projects, new technologies to learn. So that's, for someone like me who's very curious, is very exciting, but also can be a little tiring. But it has been able to introduce me to so many amazing creators from all over the world. And I think in some ways, I've got to meet a lot more breadth and diversity of creators, people that are dabbling in this space. Early when I was first playing with NFTs a few years ago, there were so few people that were interested in this work that if you met someone else that was excited about NFTs, you're like, oh my God, let's talk, let's get on Zoom, let's have a coffee. And people were really excited to meet and share their ideas and dream about what could be possible. And so I think in those early days in particular, still now, but very much in the beginning, it was a very exciting time to meet creatives from all over the world who really saw this as like a new medium or a new way to express their art, which was fun. In terms of my work, at Dropbox, we think a lot about storage. In some ways, people know us for storage, and often they think about Dropbox as a place to store files. But sometimes I like to think of Dropbox as a digital container for your life. It's a place where you store and back up your most valuable pieces of digital content. And, many years ago, that might have been, for a creative, say, your working files, your Photoshop files or your video editing files. They were quite important for me, maybe even thinking back as a student. Assignments and things like that were very valuable. And then you start to think about other valuable digital items like photographs and videos that you capture now are extremely important. People back up a lot of those to Dropbox. But when we think about the future, and you also think about potentially NFTs, some of your most valuable digital assets might actually be crypto assets, could be tokenized assets. And so it's been interesting for me to, during the day, 9 to 5, think about more files and photos and videos and these kind of valuable assets. But at nighttime, be thinking about, but actually in the future, it feels like maybe my wallet is actually holding my most valuable digital assets. And so what does that mean for a company like Dropbox? I don't have the answers, but it is an interesting thing that I think has changed the perspective at which I'm viewing my everyday work. Having to keep one eye on the future to think about the way our relationship between our digital assets and what we think about them is changing day to day. So we often talk about NFT creators as being doxed or undoxed. So doxed means that you have revealed your personal information or your identity to the world, and undoxed means that maybe you operate behind a different name or a PFP image, or you haven't revealed yourself yet. On the Galverse team, we made a decision early on that we would be doxed from the very beginning as a show of good faith to the collectors and community. We wanted people to know who was behind the characters. But we also represent ourselves many times online as our Galverse avatars, and even using sometimes our Galverse names. For me, the creators that I interact with and collaborate with, many times they are doxed, but often they're undoxed, and we've actually found that it doesn't make too much of a difference. In fact, sometimes it's quite fun to collaborate with an undoxed character, even if you're not exactly sure who's on the other side of this. Many years ago, I worked for YouTube, the video streaming platform, and I led the design for a team that was focused on VTubers, which are kind of virtual YouTubers or virtual influencers. So they're people that prefer to be on social media as a character, either a 2D character or a 3D character, and they use technology, often like virtual reality technology, to drive or puppeteer the character in front of the camera. And it was pretty cool, actually. And it really got me present to, there are many ways in which people want to represent themselves online. And even we within ourselves, I think, have a longing perhaps to explore different representations of ourselves and to indulge in play and to indulge in role play and performance and technologies that allow us to try on something a little different. Maybe it is as simple as trying on a different outfit. Maybe it's as simple as swapping out a different name, but it could be trying out entirely different aspects of our identity, different genders, different religions, different sexual preferences, whatever that might be. I think we're seeing this more and more now, and this was many years ago. Now we think about the metaverse and the idea of participating in online spaces, be that 2D or 3D, doesn't really matter, but as different lenses of our identity, as different characters, as swapping out entire different avatars. We're starting to understand that a little better and start to understand why people might like to do that and why there might be some not only fun in doing that, right, but also some opportunity for us to explore different parts of ourselves. So in some ways, I think when we think of people only as doxed or undoxed, that's quite a simple view of thinking about creators. And I think as we get further into the wild west of the metaverse, we'll look back on that as a very simplistic way of thinking about how people represent themselves online, because people will contain a vast multitude of identities that they'll choose to use each day. Working at Google was a lot of fun. I was there for 5 or 6 years, ending my time around the pandemic period, and it was truly wild. The opportunity to work on so many amazing products, global brands and products that people use every day, from Google search to Android phones to the Pixel phone to platforms like YouTube or Google Photos, Chromebooks, browsers. It was really, for someone who's very curious like me, there were endless possibilities of amazing problems to try and solve and ways to try and improve the technologies. And it was really an opportunity to work with some of the smartest people I've ever met, people really passionate and curious and always learning and always sharing, which was really exciting. And, the way that you think about design and designing products for products that have billions of users all over the world in all walks of life is very different. It takes a very different type of thinking, and it's very complex, and I think having to work through those problems and think about solving challenges of that scale is something that will stay with me for many years. It was really insightful. Comparing that with a project like Shinsei Galverse, they're very different, Google obviously is a little bigger, but Galverse comes with its own challenges too. I think in many ways I've been able to bring those experiences from working on different products and platforms at a place like Google and apply that to our work on Galverse. We're a very small team, only 4 people, and we're remote first, distributed all over the world between Japan, Australia, and America. But in many ways, people have often praised the way we've gone about things, either in our project planning or the way we communicate with our community, or just like the high quality of a lot of the things that we produce and release. And a lot of that comes back to all of us having a lot of experience in our fields, and having professional experience. And so a lot of the things I learned, for example, at YouTube and working on virtual influencers and VTubers, I was able to directly apply it to the Galverse project. And even though the scale is not the same, the ability to think about the fact that many of the Galverse community are scattered all over the world themselves. We have community members and Gal holders from all walks of life, speaking different languages from different countries and different cultures. And so that is actually not that dissimilar from how we used to think at Google. So some of the thinking has helped. Yeah. Shinsei Galverse is a NFT project, a generative art PFP project with a mission to create an iconic anime. We want to make an animated series that inspires a whole new generation of young women and rethinks the way that anime is traditionally funded, created, and produced in Japan. We are looking to create Web3's first collaboratively created anime series. And we used our token sale to raise funds so that we could create our own anime series. Our project is led by 2 amazing artists from Japan, Emi Kusano and Ayaka Ohira. And when they were growing up, when they were young girls, they loved anime, and they loved sci-fi anime in particular. And they were always a little frustrated with the way that the female characters often played a bit of a background role to the male counterparts. And so they always had a dream that one day they'd love to make their own anime where kind of badass gals are at the front and center, And so that's an anime that honestly is quite hard to get funded and produced. And so Galverse is that dream for them. So we raised our funds from the token sale, and now we've been working with studios in Japan to find the right partner to help us make the Galverse anime together. And we're bringing the community with us on that journey. So Gal holders, the people who purchase the token, are able to come along for the ride. They get to go behind the scenes with us at the studio and see how anime is made. That's not quite common. Typically, studios keep things a little secret. So it's a sneak peek into how the Galverse anime is made. And they get to use their tokens to vote on proposals and actually influence the direction of the project and the creative direction of the anime. So I hope that when the anime is finally released and they get to watch it on whatever streaming service we release on, they'll feel like they actually had a part in that anime, and they feel some sense of ownership over that, which would be really exciting for us. So that's our mission, yeah. Thank you so much, NFT in Europe, for the opportunity to come out here and speak with you all in Paris. To everyone that attended, thanks so much, and really hope you enjoyed the event, and we'll see you next time.